You know what I can't stand? I can't stand people who have no comprehension of a skill or a trade, but yet they want to add their 2 cents in about it and tell their opinions on how it should have been done differently. So our video today comes from a YouTube channel called Inspector Ray. Now, I have absolutely no idea what the content of his YouTube channel is, as this was just something that popped up in my homepage of YouTube. So with that being said, I feel like there's a lot of things in this video that he tries to give an opinion on that he probably isn't qualified to. This is a touchy subject because there are some stuff where still I kind of agree with his outcome and his reasoning, but there's a lot to be left unsaid, and I just kind of want to clear the air with a few things with this. So I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel down below if you want to go over and subscribe. He's got about 3,500 subscribers. I have nowhere near that much, so maybe some of his viewers can come over here and subscribe to me. Anyway, if you're new here, I just like reviewing cop videos and first responder videos and breaking it down from a perspective of someone who's been there and done that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into this video and let's get started.
The Second Amendment is so obvious to me, it's insane that there's an argument. I don't need a document, and I don't need another man to explain to me that I have the right to defend my gift of life. They will dictate where, how, and if I can defend myself. I find that preposterous. I find it unacceptable, and I will not accept it. I am a free man. Don't tread on me.
Now, before we transition over, I will warn you that the video intro is quite loud and dramatic, so just headphone warning.
I can't do it like this. Open the door.
Is that where that audio come? I can't be. Please tell me that that audio is not the one that's used. They got it from the dead lady.
This is not always the case. Here are 4 cases where mistakes by cops proved to be costly.
So I'm familiar with 2 out of these 4.
In this first
This
case,
one,
you'll witness one of the most disturbing
interesting.
and incompetent police moments I've seen in a while.
Hold on, Brad. Let me get in. Okay.
This was 6.
So just to clarify what's happening there, a lot of times whenever you have people who do not or cannot get in a patrol car, which is rather difficult because they are quite constrained, a lot of times one officer will go to the other side and help grab the individual and pull them into the car so that they end up sitting like sideways in the seat, not their feet on the floor, their feet in the seat. However, sometimes with combatant or unwilling suspects, it does get rather messy.
50-year-old Lisa Edwards. Apparently, after being discharged from a hospital and given the all clear by the doctor, she still refused to leave. Hospital security reported that she had been a pain in the ass all night, and they felt the need for a cop to handle this matter. Little did we know how long of a day.
So this too, a lot of times, and this isn't downing anybody or talking about anybody specific, but what we saw in law enforcement a lot of times is people would utilize hospitals as how can I say this? People would utilize hospitals in a way that they shouldn't. For example, in Marlborough County, South Carolina, they had a hospital, but for instance, people would call 911 just because their kid wanted to ride an ambulance. Or a lot of times we would see homeless people would complain of non-existent medical issues so that they could get a warm place to stay. And while this is controversial, a hospital is not a shelter. There are people that legitimately need help, and an emergency room is not an urgent care either, but that's a whole different topic. Nonetheless, at this point, it seems like this lady has refused to leave to the point where a professional, a doctor, has described her as a pain in the ass. That's bad. And any doctor or person who works in a hospital or law enforcement or EMS that has experienced this, they know what I'm talking about. Those people exist, and they are a legitimate pain in the ass.
They were in for.
Okay, Miss Edwards, they said you had already talked to the doctor. You listen to me, I'm talking. You've already talked to the doctor. You've already been discharged from the hospital. They want you gone. I'm talking.
So there's 3 officers there, and he's being
So you got
straightforward.
problems
He's done
Your
playing
lawyer has to
games.
find a way to get out of here.
There's no pacifying.
I don't
He's
want
simply
this to turn
telling
into
her,
a
hey,
situation where you have to
either
go to jail.
you leave under your own
You're looking for
accord or
someone
you're
to
going to be
call.
arrested for
I'm sorry,
trespassing.
but I'm not taking you
No,
to
I
just
don't.
Because
well, they
and trespassing's trespassing. It's a hospital, but once you've served your purpose, like I said, you're taking up spots for other people. They've requested her to leave and go home. She has refused, so then you call the police, which is what you're supposed to do. And these police officers are just being upfront and consistent and saying, hey, we're not here to play games. We've got other stuff to do. And we need you to move along so that we can as well.
said you've been checked. The doctors have discharged you.
I'm not.
You have no reason to be
for a
here.
homeless person. I shattered my ankle and I had a stroke.
Well, if the medical professionals have saw you and discharged
They
you,
won't.
I got nothing to
Here's something also to keep in the back of your mind. A lot of people will complain of non-existent problems that they've had in the past. She's saying that she shattered her ankle and had a stroke. If those 2 things had recently occurred, if that was the reason why she went to the hospital, I can assure you that less than 24 hours later, she would not be described as a pain in the ass and put on the curb. She has no brace on. Anybody who has broken a bone, especially shattered an ankle, understands what that process is. That there is no way a freshly shattered ankle here. Stroke patients, there's no way that they would have released her within 24 hours or less, unless there just wasn't an issue there. And these doctors who have license and go to school for years and to do what they do, they're not going to risk it all just because they want to be prejudiced against this woman for some unknown reason. No, it's people doing their jobs and they're trying to serve the public consistent and provide an even amount of coverage for everybody.
I got nothing to do with that then, but you got to get going.
I can't even.
And he's right. He doesn't have anything to do with that. That's non-existent problems. It doesn't matter anything right now. He just needs her to
Going
leave.
back and forth, the cop decided he was done, and he charges Edwards for criminal trespassing. He
Of
called
which
for
she
backup
is.
and a pickup van was brought. But that
Unfortunately,
was
it does
only the
get that
beginning
way
of their
sometimes.
problems.
But at least they were considerate enough to wait and bring out a van, a jail van. That's not an easy task to do, and that's not something that happens in 5 minutes.
Ma'am, listen, you're going to have to get up there because we're going to have to physically put you up there if not. And that's not as nice. So please.
Now, this is where it does get kind of controversial. These officers are not nice to her at all. And I'm not even going to stipulate on that. I don't know what these guys went through. I don't know what this lady's going through. I don't know what's going on at that time. I would be highly pissed off if I'm there dealing with this and there's a pertinent matter like a child being harmed or something else going on somewhere that I can't attend to because I'm having to babysit you. But we don't know any of that information. There's really no reason for them to be mean to her like they are being, other than, like you'll see, they're ready to get their freaking coffee. But nonetheless, let's move on.
Help us, help you.
Oh my God.
You've been medically cleared, so let's get in.
They put
So at this
stroke.
point, what you've got to understand, and you'll see some stuff in the background here, but at this point,
My ankle.
the officers are getting information from the doctors. The doctors say, hey, this woman is medically clear. She is able to be normal, whatever normal is to her. There's no
She has been
constraints.
complaining about 3 things: shattered ankle, which makes her difficult to stand, stroke, and breathing difficulty.
And like I said, we've already discussed those 3 things. Shattered ankle is nowhere relevant or recent. Stroke, probably not either. The breathing, we can obviously see there's difficulty breathing, but he'll cover that in a second. But as I was saying, there's no reason for them to be mean to her in this moment. There's no reason for them to act the way they did to her. But at some point, it just gets monotonous and repetitive, and that's just the way that police officers have to be. They have to have control of their emotions, and there's a time and place for everything. Some people deserve that kind of treatment. Others don't.
This raises questions about the doctor who cleared her in the first place.
Right, and that's what I was saying, as the doctor is only acting on the information he's received. So, according to the information,
Pass the cigarettes, ma'am.
And there you go. She wants an inhaler, but
Ma'am,
he
I'm gonna ask you
pulled
to
out a
stand
pack
up.
of cigarettes
I'm
from a
gonna ask you
pocket,
to
not
hold
an
one last
inhaler.
time.
So there, obviously, it's decisions of her, consequences of her own actions, but that still doesn't negate the fact that she needs help. She obviously can't get in the back of this car, and these cops are just allowing their impatience to get the best of them.
In the back of the van, but it all proved futile. The cops, frustrated at this point, went ahead to call his lieutenant, which only made situations.
And you'll see it get worse through here.
Listen to me. You have been. I'm not doing this with you, okay? This is the Lord's. Listen to me. This is the Lord's day. All I want to do
the
is give you some
Lord's
coffee and some
day.
oatmeal. I'm not gonna-
By God, he can't get his Chick-fil-A today, so he just wanted his coffee and his oatmeal. And here this woman is ruining it because she needed medical help.
deal with your mess this morning. We've already spent too much time on you. You're going to get up here in this van and you're going to go to jail. We're done with this. I'm tired of this
Okay.
dead weight crap. Put your feet up.
Dead weight is horrible. You do have people who do that just because they don't want to go to jail, and it's
We're going to get in there and pass out.
hard.
Because this is all an act. That's all it is. You're not going back in the hospital. We're not taking you back.
The lieutenant not only was
Also, something you may not pick up on. I bet half of y'all had no clue what she said. That officer knew exactly what she said because that officer has talked to her on multiple occasions, and this is probably not something new.
rude and lacked empathy, but he was also dumb, as he kept on
Again,
saying she was acting.
He's only
However,
responding to the
investigative
information that
doctors
he
see Edward's
has.
condition was deteriorating, and she seriously needed
And
medical
people do
attention.
fake illnesses to get out of
Despite
jail.
her
It's called
media
gelitis.
complaints about not being able to breathe properly, the cops decided to put Edwards in the patrol
Now
car
this
with
is where it just gets despicable, and I don't know if this is cherry picking on this video because I haven't gone to wherever this video is sourced from and watched it in its complete entirety, and I need to do that, but that just looked horrible.
giggling and laughing about Edward's condition. And in the next clip, you'll discover why this case stands out as one of the most shockingly incompetent police cases I've witnessed in quite some time.
I guess I like it.
Now this is where I'm curious. Where's the officer in this? Because you'll see it just skips. He's not moving in this picture.
I can't breathe.
Despite bleeding several times, the cop driving didn't notice till he stopped another vehicle for traffic violation.
Now this is what doesn't make sense to me. The video where she's saying, I can't breathe. She is obviously struggling big time, right? But whenever we go back to see her apparently dead in the back of the car is now subsiding from moving. It's pulling over, and the guy says that he didn't notice until he went to stop another car. I don't know any police departments that allow you to conduct a traffic stop with somebody in custody in the back of your car. Hell, with anybody in the car that's not another police officer with your agency, much less somebody you're taking to jail. Then on top of that, the jail van pulled behind him. That usually wouldn't happen in an instance where you're pulling over a car for a traffic violation. This is probably the officer just realized that, hey, she got quiet back there and maybe I need to stop and check on her. That's what I'm going to go with, not a traffic stop. Again, this is why I feel like this guy has no idea what he's talking about, and he should not be commenting on videos like this.
He discovered Edwards unconscious, called paramedics, and she later died at Fort Hospital due to a fatal stroke
Later
from a
died
police
at the hospital.
An investigation was launched into the actions of the cops during the incident, and Edwards' family filed a lawsuit against the state and Knoxville Police Department. In Edwards' case, the actions of the cops cost a person's life. But in the next case, a cop's actions led to the loss of an animal's life.
We'll revisit, come back to that at the end. Now this one here is a situation that gets hairy.
In Ohio on February 7th, 2023, when a Lorien police officer, Elliot Palmer, on patrol, saw a woman struggling to get several dogs under control. He decided to get involved to prevent anyone from being bitten.
All right, so this lady has two
As he
dogs.
approached them, the first dog was quite friendly, But
first
something
dog friendly,
unfortunate
and now she's got
happened when
2.
the other dog charged at Palmer.
Now here's where it gets interesting, okay? So you've got an officer only stops and intervenes. It didn't say there was a call, but he stops and intervenes because he sees a woman struggling to gain control of 3 dogs. These 3 dogs, at least 2 of them are showing aggressive tendencies. The 2 that she's holding on to, looks like they're lunging at, trying to bite people walking by. And one of the dogs gets loose and actually charges the officer. In a world where we can have it on videotape, how is this officer at fault for this? And you'll see people in the video, they say, oh, he was running across the street, which is clearly a lie, but they don't have the abundance, the ability of having the camera to look back at in that moment. They're recalling from their memory, and there's 3 sides to every story. There's yours, theirs, and the truth somewhere in the middle. That's not because people were necessarily attempting to lie. It's just people remember things differently. And that's why some of these people in this video can be written off whenever they're saying, oh, he wasn't attacking you. But that dog was clearly aggressive in the few seconds prior, jumped his leash, and then charges the officer.
The cop shot the dog, whose name was later discovered to be Dixie, 4 times.
Dixie.
The shot was fatal as the dog died afterwards.
Really?
By that
That's usually
point,
what
the cop
happens.
surely knew what was coming for him.
Get back! Get back!
How?
Get back! Okay, Doc.
I'm suing you. You'll hear somebody later say, oh, you're paying for that. You better pay for that. That's all they care about, man. That's all they equate their animal to. Their animal that they can't even hardly afford to. Okay, I better not say that. There's nice houses there. They can probably afford to take care of them. But you better pay for it. I'm suing you. Ma'am, your dog was uncontrollable. Look at you. You got your pants on backwards or something. I can't figure out what's going on here. You look like a box of cereal. But your dog was out of control. Any normal person would have done the same. Is that why you were struggling to hold his leash? Palmer. I think I ought to do a sticker for that one.
The cop, knowing he was surrounded and things could go south for him at any given point, radioed for backup immediately.
Well, anytime you have shots fired, especially with a death, you want a supervisor there. You better fucking pay for it. There it goes. God, you'd think, like...
Backup arrived, and the officer was secured without any
ridiculous,
further
man.
casualties. He eventually had to leave, as the crowd grew in numbers.
The officer had to actually leave the scene.
Of law and order.
You would think that he
Internal
shot an unarmed
investigation by the
person.
police found the shooting to be objectively reasonable. And the officer did not
Objectively.
face criminal
Objectively. Let me explain to you what objectively means. That means that no matter what position you view it from, it still has the same result. It's reasonable. Subjectively would mean that the view is subjective, meaning depending on what point of view you're from, it could be right or it could be wrong. Maybe you, for example, the issue of abortions, depending on what side of the spectrum you stand on, subjectively it's different to you. Some say it's right, some say it's wrong, some don't care. Objectively would be like killing someone, except for a pedophile. No matter where you come from, that's generally viewed as a bad thing. That is objectively bad. So, yeah.
But he was put on modified duty for the time.
Modified duty just means that he was on light duty while the investigation was going on.
This is 27-year-old Sylvester Hayes, whose life completely destroyed by the cops, as you can see in the next few minutes.
Completely
When driving to get
destroyed.
his children food, he was stopped for a traffic violation, which wasn't a strange occurrence, and offenders are often given tickets for this. However,
That would be
Sylvester's
normal.
case was different.
failure to ID, failure to ID. We're going to assume this was a legal traffic stop
When he
as
was
the...
asked for an ID, he reluctantly complied and gave it out. And
All right, so now with the information we have, this is a legal traffic stop, and therefore you are required to identify yourself. Actually, you're required to have a driver's license that you must provide upon request. That actually is a little bit different than the failure to ID. There are situations when you're not driving where you are required to identify yourself, and you do not have to give a physical ID at that point. You can identify yourself by name and date of birth, possibly social security number. But when you're driving, you have to have a driver's license, and you have to produce that upon request. That is part of the privilege of driving. Now, he reluctantly complied, but he did give it out. There's nothing illegal about that at that point, just highly, highly suspicious. But as we'll find out, it seems that Mr. Hayes here actually had nothing to worry about and was acting this way for absolutely no reason.
this single action would set a chain of events that would forever change Sylvester's
I don't think
life.
it forever changed his
After
life.
checking his name, the officer asked Sylvester to come out of his car.
Again, Pennsylvania v. Mims. It doesn't matter why. You are required to either exit or stay in the vehicle upon request. No questions asked, no discussion, no reason needed, but he's been told he is being detained. And that is where...
Defensive, which was understandable since he didn't know the reason for his arrest. However, what he didn't know was that the cop had mistaken his name, Sylvester Hayes, for Sylvester Hayes, who had a warrant out for domestic violence. While
So something I did not know, but I just noticed, is that there was an actual spelling difference. So in this situation, what would happen is either by the tag or by the driver's license, the officer learned that the individual driving this vehicle's name was Sylvester Hayes. There was a known warrant for a Sylvester Hayes. Domestic violence is a violent crime. It is a crime against the physical person, another person. That is a violent crime, and therefore it is treated a specific way. It is treated with security and safety. Those are the utmost important factors. And anytime that you have an individual in a vehicle that is wanted for a violent crime, the best practice is to remove them from the vehicle out of a place where you cannot see them, detain them in handcuffs, and put them in your patrol car. That is completely legal. That is completely normal. If it is not you and you are sure you are doing nothing wrong, comply, and it will go much smoother for you, as it would have in this situation. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it. Let's see what happened with Mr. Hayes.
this was happening, backup had been requested and was well on its way.
There's no reason for him to be doing all this, and this is just learned defiance, taught defiance. It's literally he's taught cops are bad. There's no reason for him to be acting like this. There's no reason for him to be resisting like this. The only thing I see negative about this... So the only thing I can see negative about the whole detainment here is that they didn't tell him what it was for, but that's also hard to come across because, I mean, number one, you're not required to tell a person why you're locking them up. That is charging papers. Actually, you're not required to talk to them at all, the same way that they have the Fifth Amendment right and they don't have to talk to you or the police officer. But as long as the paperwork's there, then it's completely straight. So theoretically, you could potentially pull somebody over, never tell them what their crime was, and write them a ticket for the crime of speeding. That's whenever they find out. Substantially same thing for an arrest. It's not common practice. It's not taught. It's kind of frowned upon because it leads to situations like this, but it is completely legal, and there's nothing wrong with it and nothing you can do about it. Again, here we have resisting.
Happy to have gotten the job done, proceeded to run his driver's license through their database.
And this is where it comes back. Now they actually have his driver's license.
However,
They can confirm that it's not the same. Whereas if he would have just given his driver's license at the beginning instead of going through all this, they probably could have done that much quicker without ever actually having to detain him. You know, maybe if they were worrying about, had a chance to worry about making sure the spelling and the date of birth lined up correctly in the beginning, instead of having to worry about a possibly violent offender who is resisting arrest, then maybe we could have been through this a lot quicker.
But not wanting to take responsibilities, they took a different.
And this is where it pisses me off.
So, and I don't know all the story, but there is another Sylvester.
Right, the cop is trying to explain to him why this happened and how it happened. It's a warrant for a violent crime, and we're just trying to see if you're him or not. Calling people on a traffic stop is not a good idea. It makes the cop worried that you're calling people to back them up and assault the officer. It's going to make them call back up. You did. You started off, from the video that I've seen, you started off 100% disrespectful. And this is where people start to lose their mind.
Yeah, we have failed to signal 100 feet, and then he has tickets. He had a gun in his pocket.
They misrepresented everything that happened, but didn't stop there. They also conspired with the lieutenant to get him arrested on trumped-down charges to justify their illegal actions. Sylvester lost his job and home.
Trumped down charges. So let me explain this. So, legal traffic stop leads to identifying the driver who has matching name and appearance-ish of an individual wanted for a violent crime. Hey, we need to see if this individual is the person wanted or not. Let's remove him from the car and detain him. What is that is typical. Now, whenever they go to detain him, that is whenever he becomes combative and resistive and resisting arrest. The reason for the arrest does not have any dictation on the charge of resisting arrest. If the arrest is completely, about the only way you're going to get a resisting arrest charge taken away from being arrested is if the arrest was completely unjustifiably illegal, like an officer going out of his way to do harm to you. A situation like this, it's totally feasible. You would be charged with resisting arrest because they were 100% justified in detaining you, and you resisted that, and therefore that falls under most states resisting arrest. Also, the gun. There's conspicuously never anything said about gun laws and CWPs. He had a gun in his pocket. When somebody says you have a gun in your pocket, that doesn't typically mean you're carrying a firearm the right way. Again, that is just my experience and my assessment. Usually when somebody says they have a gun in their pocket, they literally mean a gun in their pocket, which is, to start off with, unsafe and probably illegal. Especially the fact that he's bringing it up here. It's probably illegal, and another crime that he committed. Also, he has the traffic tickets for whatever the traffic infraction was that caused the traffic stop.
After the incident, and has filed a lawsuit against the Dallas Police Department, pointing to 2 counts of excessive force and 1 count of unlawful arrest. These situations keep getting worse and worse, as in the next case, a paraplegic being brutalized by the police. This is Clifford Owens.
Now, this one, I have no idea what it's about. I've never heard it.
Illegal substances. The police called for a drug-sniffing dog to check the vehicle, which requires occupants to exit the vehicle. But here's the catch. Owensby is a paraplegic and can't walk.
Yeah, man, sir. I can't step out the car, sir. What you got to I got help. Well, I hope you get out.
So, interesting story. There was one night whenever I was a new officer, I was doing drunk driving patrol, just basically looking out for people who may have been under the influence. And I stopped a car that I 100% believed was under the influence. As I walked up, talked to the driver, he wasn't slurring his speech. If he was drunk, he was a good drunk and knew how to hold it. But at the end of the day, I wanted to do a field sobriety test on him, so I asked him to step out of the car. I ran into the same issue. He was a paraplegic. At that point, I told him to pretty much have a nice night. There was no reason for me, once I talked to him, to believe that there was alcohol in his system. He did not give me any reason to believe that he was impaired from what I could tell. It was not reasonable for me to bring him out of that car, much less it would have been impossible for him to complete 2 of the 3 standard field sobriety tests. So what's the point? I made sure he got home safely. Crisis averted. Moving on.
Excuse me? I'm gonna help you getting up, get out. Excuse me? I'm gonna help you getting up, get out. Well, I don't think that's gonna happen, sir. I cannot step out of the car. I cannot step out of the business. In the car, you can get out of the car.
Drugs are a little bit different.
Hey, bro, can you come down the street to Ferguson and Grand?
I don't know what's going on with the audio.
Stating that he couldn't exit his car, the police persistently attempted to assist him. However, Owensby only wanted assistance from someone who understood his paraplegia.
That's understandable.
Frustration reached its peak, and the cops resorted to an unthinkable action.
Now this is where things take a turn for me, and I don't even know where this is going because I don't know this case. But if it was reasonable for someone close by to come to this traffic stop and assist him in getting out of the car, why not do it? I get, to all the cops out there, all the narcotics guys, all the street guys, everybody that is gung-ho about getting drugs off the street, gung-ho about doing traffic stops, and you're still alive. I get that sometimes there is just one car that you can't let go, no matter what excuse, no matter what call comes out. You know that this car is the one. Do a little bit of thinking, man. This guy could have easily had someone come to the scene and help him out of his car. There's nothing here. There's nothing that I've seen so far that shows he was unwilling to get out of the car. He just didn't want the officer snatching him out of the car.
Believe it, bro. You can fucking hurt me. You can hurt me, bro. What are y'all doing, bro?
Yeah, this is.
Officers acted without control, treating Owensby like an animal. Owensby's vehicle was inspected, and no illegal substances were found.
Oh yeah, they fucked
the
up.
city and Dayton police, saying they violated his rights. The city settled for $125,000 out of court, but didn't admit fault. If you liked this video, check this out.
I hope my video helps bring a little bit of insight of what may go through the minds of officers whenever they're dealing with these situations. I in no way condone or condemn any of the actions that I've seen here. I was not in their place. I don't know what thought process they were going through. I don't know what the situation was. Monday morning quarterbacking, it's easy to sit back and say, we could have done this differently. We could have done this way. And that's why Monday morning quarterbackings and debriefings are so essential in the first responder and the military world. We need to be able to look back on what we did and say, hey, this is something that we need to correct for next time. So the point of these videos is not to condemn or to condone any actions put on by any of these officers or the individuals in the videos. However, what I do like to do is give you a fresh perspective, not just somebody on the internet that's pissed off about police, or somebody on the right wing that's a straight up bootlicker. I've been there. I've done that. I've done the job. I've done it for many years. And I'm not a cop for a reason anymore. I actually work on the opposite side of the fence now. And I want to be able to bring some enlightenment on these videos and show you that everything isn't always as it seems. Remember, there's 3 sides to every story. There's your side, there's their side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. And that's how all these videos are. Leave comments down below. Tell me if there's anything that you want me to go over, any new videos that you want me to look at and take a chance at. Also, go visit this guy's YouTube channel and take a look at his videos.
The Second Amendment is so obvious to me, it's insane that there's an argument. I don't need a document, and I don't need another man to explain to me that I have the right to defend my gift of life. They will dictate where, how, and if I can defend myself. I find that preposterous. I find it unacceptable, and I will not accept it. I am a free man. Don't tread on me.